Jose Luis Alvarado, Cynthia Amos, Jomeline Balatayo, Suzanne Borges, Kathy Kreisha, Katrine Chakowski, Deborah Erickson, Cheryl Forbes, Bob Fraley,
Present.
Anna Moore, Gerard Morrison, and Iris Riggs. We have a quorum.
Great, thank you. Good to see you, everybody. Good morning. So just as a reminder of recent changes, this meeting is not going to be streamed live. However, the staff has posted the link on the website, so any individual who would like the link into the meeting while the meeting is underway may do so. So it's very possible we may have some individuals watching or listening via technology in real time. The meeting is being recorded so that individuals who are interested may view the video online at their convenience. The link will be posted in the next couple of days. We still need to use our microphones, so just as a reminder, push the button and the green light comes on, and then to deactivate it, push the button and the green light will go off. And that's just so those who, if you do not do that, those listening on Zoom will not be able to hear any of the comments inside the room, and they won't be recorded. We have a couple of new members with us here today. I'd like to introduce 3 new members. We have Kathy Kresha and Katrina, is that correct? Chakowski are here with us today, and unfortunately Cynthia Amos, our third person, is not able to join us today due to medical concern. So I'd like to introduce, first of all, Kathy, and welcome. Good to see you. You were with us in August, weren't you, on the phone? Great. Nice to have you here. Any comments you'd like to make? Any background about yourself?
I work at the University of Southern California, Director of Accreditation and Credentialing. I've taught in the special ed track, taught all the courses there, including the guided practice. I've also taught for Brandman online, their introductory to special ed course. I was a high school and junior high school teacher, special ed, math intervention, and math was my specialty. And just happy to be here and looking forward to learning a lot.
Great. Welcome. Nice to have you here.
Thank you.
And Katrina.
Thank you. I work in the Sweetwater Union High School District on the south end of the state, and my current gig is supporting new teachers as a program manager for teacher induction, where our district proudly offers induction to every one of our eligible new teachers with the hope of retaining and growing the best talent for our future possible. I taught for 25 years. I have credentials in math, English, and social studies, and an admin credential, kind of jack of all trades, master of none, and I'm really honored to be here.
Great. Nice to have you both here with your wealth of experience. Looking forward to it. You have a couple items in front of you in addition to the report of the program accreditation recommendations. Just want to remind you we have the handy green form that we can use. So as we go through our discussions, this is a good chart to help guide our discussions. All right, we're going to move on to item 2. Item 2 is the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda for the November meeting? So moved by Member Borges. Is there a second? Second by Member Alvarado. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed? And the motion carries. Moving on to item 3. Item 3 is the approval of the minutes of the prior meeting. At this time, it would be appropriate for any committee member who was not in attendance at that meeting to abstain. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the August 2018 meeting? So moved by Co-Chair Moore. Is there a second? Seconded by Member Alvarado. Any corrections or changes? All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? That motion also carries. Moving on to item 4. Item 4 are the co-chair and member reports. Do any members have anything to report? Yeah, Member Balatayo.
So aside from working as ELD teacher and ELD and English 10 honors teacher at Culver City High School, I'm also now ELD instructional coordinator. And I'm currently 5 months pregnant with a boy.
Congratulations. That's great news.
Yay!
Wow.
So we'll see how that works out.
That's fantastic. Well, we're with you on this one. Congratulations. Anybody else? I'll just mention from our Chapman University, we are expanding in that we're adding another music ed professor, which is wonderful. So if anybody knows someone who might be qualified and interested in applying for the university, just let me know and I can steer them in the right direction. All right. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Committee member Erickson.
How soon we forget. We are not the only university in the room, but we were proud to be a part of a planning grant with Poway Unified School District. We're working with them from Point Loma Nazarene on teacher preparation and special education. I believe UCSD also has a grant.
Wonderful.
Well, I'm also very proud to announce that Sweetwater Union High School District and UCSD and San Diego State are collaborating also. We received one of the residence capacity grants. So we're really looking forward to planning our future.
Awesome. Congratulations. Good news. Anyone else? Yeah, Member Alvarado.
So I'm proud to announce that CSUMB received a Title V Hispanic Serving Institution grant for $3.75 million
Whoa.
to diversify the candidates going into the teaching profession.
That's fantastic. That's great news. Congratulations. I can use some tips on writing grants, so if you want to kind of help me out on that. Anyone else? All right, thank you. Item 5 is staff reports, and staff does have a few items they'd like to present. We'll start with Ms. Hickey.
Sure. Well, welcome back, everybody. It's been since June that we were actually physically together, so it's been a long time. So welcome back. I want to also welcome the new members. Looking forward to working with both of you as well as Cynthia. We've been extremely busy. Site visits have started back up for this year. So Catherine is telling me, and I'm trying to remember the number, that we have 9 in the fall. We have 3 this week. That's happening right now as we speak. And so things are ramping up, and we're very, very busy. We had a very busy October because that is when Cal Council for Teacher Education meets. That's when the Credential Counselors and Analysts of California meet. I always get the C's wrong on that. So the commission staff is at both of those to make sure we can answer as many questions as we can and to participate and give workshops and that kind of thing. So we've been really, really busy, and we're just looking forward to a great year. I want to take a moment to introduce a new staff member. Kara, would you come to the table? This is Kara Mendoza. And Kara is a new analyst who will be dealing with all of the grant money that we're getting in to help organize.
She's a
organize, manage, and do the kind of thing. Do you want to say a few things about your background and who you are and what you're going to be doing?
Of course. So good morning, everyone. I have been at a COA meeting on occasion as a team lead for accreditation, so it's very happy to be back with you all. And I am your new grants consultant here with CTC. I recently left Fairfield Sassoon Unified School District, was there for 13 years as an administrator, most recently as an elementary school principal, and 3 years before that, 10 years in the central office. So I come with a lot of K-12 background in a land far, far away. In times past, I was the co-director of the California Writing Project, so I also have some background in statewide policies. Mm-hmm. So I'm so happy to be here. Was welcomed quite lovely, and already reading local solutions grant proposals.
Yep,
and
exactly.
It's going very well. So Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yep. We're thrilled to have Kara, and she can't answer any questions that's not already on an FAQ or in the proposal. So don't put her in a bad spot. Can't privilege anybody. We're really thrilled to have Kara here, doing the good work. It's really nice to be able to harness some of the money that the state has dedicated, and I just wanted to highlight some of that. So you'll remember that last year or the year before, I can't remember, there was the money for the undergraduate teacher preparation programs, and we did sort of an informal survey because those reports aren't required to the end of this year. We did an informal survey to find out how many were up and running this fall enrolling candidates, and there were 41. So we were thrilled. I mean, it's really amazing work. So we're excited, and it'll be interesting. They will be reporting on our annual data system, so we'll be able to see the pathways and the enrollment and those kinds of things pretty soon. So we're thrilled about that. Breaking out some of the numbers, apparently there were 24 focused on the STEM fields, 21 in special ed, 18 in bilingual, And like I said, most of those are all beginning in 2018 with more coming in 2019. So really good. The estimate for some reason is about 1,500 teachers completing annually, with the first graduates as early as 2020. So good news there. You remember we have the California Center on Teaching Careers, and that's up and running through the Tulare County Office of Ed. The classified grant program is up and running again. Also, that was $45 million over 5 years, and there were 53 grants in that area. The bilingual teacher professional development program was $5 million. So those are the sort of the things that we dealt with in the past. And then, of course, the ones that, and then the Cal Ed program, which was sort of kind of wide, was $9.2 million. So, the legislature and Governor Brown really stepped up when it came to the, beginning to really address the teacher shortage. The really fun stuff now is, right now the teacher residency grants, there's $75 million there, and those proposals will be due in January. And so we'll have a lot of work to do reviewing those proposals, with $50 million going to special ed, 25 for STEM and bilingual, and an estimate of about 3,700 additional teachers out of that pot of money. And that's a really interesting one. It's $20,000 per resident. 100% match is required. There has to be a partnership with an IHE. That's a real important thing. So that'll be really fun to see what comes through the pikes. Lots of work for Kara and others in the office as it relates to those. The local solutions grant proposals have come in. The due date has now passed for those. There's $50 million there, and that's really wide ranging. It allowed the locals to kind of figure out how they could best address special ed. And so there's a lot of things that they're able to do related to identifying, recruiting, and preparing new special ed teachers. And so we are looking at those proposals now. So those, I believe the awards will be announced there in mid-December. And, that can go anything from student debt repayment to stipends to, signing bonuses, all sorts of things. We're hoping that it leads to new teachers rather than teachers that would have already been teaching anyways. But so that'll be good. So that's a lot of good new initiatives coming down the pike from the state level. So so I wanted to mention those. Catherine, do you want to talk about program review?
Sure. Be happy to. So Cheryl just mentioned that the yellow cohort is in the middle of the site visit cycle of the accreditation, or the site visit process of the accreditation cycle. I'm always working about a year and a half in front of that. As you might recall, we now review evidence during year 5 prior to that. So we put together reviewers. We have about 110 programs that will need to be reviewed for the orange cohort. And I'm happy to say that 20 have been reviewed. Another 19 will be reviewed before Thanksgiving. Interestingly, in the orange cohort, there are 8 school psych programs, and there are 5 speech language pathology programs, which means that we need a lot of people from a very small group, a very, very small pool. Those are tough areas to field for reviewers. If I call it sort of Match.com combined with Jenga, all the Jenga rods are in place. All the Jenga rods are in place. Now, if none of them get pulled out, we're good to go. But those 2 communities have really stepped up when asked, and I'm really appreciative. I'd also like to publicly thank Dr. Erickson. We had our first review at Point Loma Nazarene at their Mission Valley campus, and it was delightful to be there. They were fantastic hosts. We had lots of room to spread out, and our reviewers were really, really appreciative. It's not close to lunch, so I know your staff went out and got lunch for us and brought it in, and because of all the state rules, there was, collecting money and handing over money and all kinds of ridiculousness, really. But without batting an eye, You guys just kind of went with that, and thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Really nice to be there. I'd never been to that campus. For Orange, the site visits have already been identified. We've already begun to identify team leads, and they've also been really gracious because they have not done the yellow site visit, and we're saying, so in 2019, 2020, can you look at your calendars? So anyway, the system is just keeping moving, and it seems to be going really well. And I'm excited that it's smoother this year than last year, and I think it'll continue to be that way. Thanks.
Great. I wanted to mention, I forgot to mention, CCAC moved their conference next year, and it overlaps with the date that we chose for COA. So I might be bringing back to you at the next meeting a proposal to move our meeting, because pretty much all of our analysts and everybody is over at that meeting trying to give breakout sessions and things like that. So we haven't quite figured it out yet, but I just became aware that they changed their meeting date. It's the November meeting of next. Yeah. They moved it from October to November. So, so that's the challenge. So I will look at the calendar and maybe even send a doodle poll out to you all to see what you think. We will figure that out. I just wanted to mention some of the upcoming activities that the commission staff has going. So the bilingual community they're looking at refreshing the standards, and I call it a refresh because it's not, I don't think it's a wholesale change, but it looks like that we'll be meeting with the bilingual group to kind of update those standards in the next year. So that'll be something that the commission staff will be working on. Of course, we've made a lot of progress on the PPS standards work, thanks to Lynette and Catherine and Karen Sacramento and the PPS community. And those standards will be up for adoption in the next few months or at least information and then adoption possibly for the commission. So that work is moving along really smoothly. We'll begin to look at subject matter. If anybody was listening to the last commission meeting, there is a real desire on the part of the commission to really rethink subject matter in terms of the examinations as well as programs, and possibly looking at the possibility of having degrees in place of that. Now, the law is really clear about what we can and cannot allow at the moment, so it would require some legislative change. It would require some statute change, or some regulation change if the commission wanted to go in a different direction. So that's long-term work, but we're beginning to investigate that topic. We have a work group that's starting to be formed about CTE, career technical ed, and trying to really just strengthen that whole area, whether it's teacher ed to better and stronger programs. So that work is happening in conjunction with the Department of Ed. We have the cost recovery for accreditation regs moving along. We needed to update those regulations in order to align with our new accreditation system, because the old regs referenced biannual reports, referenced program assessment, things that don't exist anymore. So that work is moving along, and we have to work with the Office of Administrative Law on that, which is interesting. And then I guess the last thing I wanted to mention in the upcoming work is reading and literacy. I think that we mentioned this last time, but there's a real desire to revisit again the way that we the TPEs in and around reading and literacy, and then how do we assess reading and literacy. So that work will continue. There's a meeting probably going to be held with the stakeholders after the first of the year to talk about that again. So that's all some really big work that's coming in front of us that will eventually make its way to all of you. I just have two little extra things before we move on. I know we have several quarterly reports on our agenda today, and I just wanted to clarify, because there's always a question about whether you need to take action or not. They're always put on for action in case you wanted to act, but there's not a requirement that you act, but it's put there as action by your request several years ago, where you can say, if you wanted to remove stipulations, you certainly can. If you wanted to add stipulations, you certainly could, if you felt like an institution was not making progress. So that's entirely open to you. So I just wanted to clarify that, because I know we're starting to get a lot of those now. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is, and Bob and Anna know this, but we need Terry for item number 12. So she needs to be at another meeting from 10 to 11. So we might have to move the agenda around a little bit there. And be patient with our technology. Hopefully we have to zoom in a lot of people today. So thank you. That's it. Anybody else wanted to add anything? Sorry, rest of the staff? Nope. Okay.
In Part 1, Sections A, B, and C at the beginning of this item. In Part 2, Sections D and E are for notification purposes only, and therefore no action is required. Please use the version that's on your desk or on your table here. This is the latest version here. The staff was able to add one more program for consideration. That's the Sonoma County Office of Education. So do you all have a copy of this one here? Okay, great. Okay, we're going to start with Section A, the program approvals, and this section is for an action. There are 3 new programs for approval. It's the four. Oh, that's right, there are 4. No worries. No, you're right. So it's at the Kings County Office of Education, the Administrative Services Credential Clear Induction. It's the Placer County Office of Education, Education Specialist Moderate Severe Intern. The Sonoma County Office of Education, Education Specialist Moderate Severe Intern, and the ANEMO Leadership Charter High School, Green Dot Public Schools. Okay, any recusals for any sections of section Part A? Okay, we have one recusal, Member Erickson. And Member Moore, Co-Chair Moore. Okay, is there a motion to approve the staff recommendations? Motion by Committee Member Balatayo. Is there a second? Second by Committee Member Borges. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you. And members come back to the table. That was a quick wheel out and wheel in. Okay. Section B is program withdrawals. It's for action, and there are 2 types of withdrawals that are listed here. One is for withdrawals requested by the institution, and the second list of institutions are those for which the programs have been inactive for over 5 years. There are no automatic withdrawals at this time, but there are 3 program sponsors withdrawing a total of 4 programs. Is that correct? Okay. So we have Cal State, so 3 program sponsors withdrawing 5 programs?
There's four programs. That's the trouble with updating this at the last minute. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 institutions, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 programs. I apologize for that.
I understood there would be no math today. Okay, so 4 program sponsors withdrawing 5 programs. Okay, so let's see if I get this right. We have Cal State Bakersfield, Preliminary Administrative Services Intern. We have California State University Sacramento, the Reading and Literacy Leadership Specialist Credential, and the Reading and Literacy Added Authorization. We have Fresno Pacific University with the Clear General Education, Multiple Subject, and Single Subject Induction. We have San Diego State University School Nurse, right? And then we have Fresno Pacific? That's it. That's it. Okay, we got them all. All right. Any recusals here on Section B? All right, seeing no recusals, is there a motion to accept? So moved by Member Riggs and seconded by Member Erickson. All in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to Section C. Section C is a program requesting reactivation, and there are no programs requesting reactivation at this time. Moving on to Part 2. And the next 2 sections, D and E, are for notification purposes only, and therefore no action is required. Section D, programs transitioning. There are no programs requesting to transition at this time. Section E, programs moving to inactive status. This section is for notification only and no action needed, and there is one program sponsor moving a total of 2 programs to an inactive status. That is the Sonoma County Office of Education, the Designated Subjects Supervision and Coordination, and the Designated Subjects Special Subjects. Okay. All right. Moving on now to item 7. Item 7 is the initial program approval for new program sponsors. And consultant Lynette Roby will present this action item. Please note in this item there are a total of 3 parts. Part 1 is the Atwater Elementary School District, and Part 2 is Fortune School of Education, both of which were included in the original document that was on the webpage. And then Part 3, the Burton School District, is listed as an agenda insert on the webpage. Ms. Roby, will you please present these items? Oh, I'm sorry, pardon me. Ms. Roby will present the items. Anyone need to recuse himself? Burton?
We're getting Atwater up on the screen.
Okay.
Are you there? It's Atwater Elementary. Anna Boyanga is the name underneath.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
There they are. Yay. Oh,
okay,
no, that's
great.
me. Okay, well, there's
Okay, there we are. Okay, so the Atwater Elementary School District teacher induction. Joining Ms. Roby via technology, our institutional representatives. Do we have them both? And they disappeared from the screen.
We lost
Magic.
We're there. We're here.
Okay, we have Sandra, is it Scheiber?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Superintendent. And then Anna Boyenga, who is the Assistant Superintendent for Educational Services. Also have Debbie Mitchell, Program Coordinator, and Diana Heller, the Program Mentor. Ms. Roby, you please begin.
Thank you. So we bring before you for consideration and possible approval Atwater Elementary School District's Teacher Induction Program. You've already introduced the representatives. Did we miss anyone?
No.
It doesn't look like. Thank you. And they'll be available to answer any questions that you might have. As you know, there's some new members today for the COA, so we wanted to just briefly sort of recap the initial institutional approval process. There is a table on page 3 of the item that also outlines each stage a little bit more in detail. But the initial institutional approval process for new program sponsors consists of 5 stages. You can see on the table that it identifies each stage. Institutions must complete the prerequisites. That's the first stage, and that prerequisite includes a session that goes through each of the process, each stage of the process, and that's the Accreditation 101 session. After they complete the prerequisites, then there is stage 2, which requires that an institution submit responses to 12 eligibility requirements. And the eligibility requirements are very similar to preconditions, the general preconditions. And then once that goes, they complete that, in stage 3, the institution then submits common standards and program preconditions for consideration. Now, stage 2 and stage 3 go before the commission for approval. If they are approved for stage 3, they receive provisional approval. And provisional approval is generally provided for them for 2 to 3 years, at least so that one cohort of candidates goes through the program. But only after provisional approval is received from the commission can the program standards be brought before you. So that is where Atwater is right at the moment. Each of the institutions being presented today have received provisional approval for a period of 3 years, which allows them, again, one cohort of candidates to complete their program. After they complete the program, say you approve the program today and they run that cohort of candidates through, then there is a focus site visit, and data is collected, and a report then is taken back to the commission where they are considered for full approval and then go into the actual accreditation cycle and an accreditation cohort. So that's the 5 stages. It takes a while and it's pretty rigorous. That said, the presentation of Atwater Elementary's induction program standards is part of stage 4. Atwater Elementary School District submitted responses to the induction standards and were reviewed by a board of institutional reviewers, BIR members, a team of 2. Following some revisions, the standards were all found to be aligned, and a copy of Atwater Elementary's responses to the induction standards can be found as an attachment to this item with the report of findings as Appendix A to the item. Atwater Elementary's induction program will be a job-embedded 2-year program that will be offered to candidates who hold a preliminary in single subject, multiple subject, or ed specialist. Atwater Elementary's induction program will focus on the individualized learning plan, which will be based again on the California standards for the teaching profession, the CSTPs, and will identify a candidate's needs and goals, thus the individualization of the program. Atwater Elementary's induction program will include a full release model of mentoring support for its candidates. So that's just a brief outline of the program design. Given that, staff recommends that the Committee on Accreditation grant initial accreditation for Atwater Elementary School District's teacher induction program. And we are again available. I'm available for process questions, and Atwater is available for any other program questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Roby. All right, there's an opportunity for the committee now to ask any questions for discussion. Committee Member Tchaikovsky.
Thank you for the information. What does full release mentoring model mean? I'm not sure if that's something I'm already supposed to know, or but I don't know what that
Atwater, are you muted?
Would look like.
No.
Okay.
Full release means that the mentor has no classroom responsibilities. Their full-time job is mentoring.
I was thinking of, like, from the candidate vantage point, you're released. Thank you.
Oh. No.
Any other questions or discussions? Sure, Member Borges.
Okay, so I'm just going through your documents. I'm part of an induction plan, and I wanted to tell you that I really like your collaboration coaching log. It looks like it's effective and it covers everything and very easy to use. I'm impressed with it.
Thank you very much.
Co-Chair Moore.
First, what great submission. It was really easy to read and very comprehensive. Looks like you have a great program, and I just wanted to, a quick question, do you pay for the teacher's induction?
Yes.
That's awesome. That's great. Well, look forward to the next part of this process.
Great.
All right. Anyone else? Any other committee member? Okay, this is an action item, so is there a motion? Motion by Cheryl Forbes. I'm sorry, Committee Member Forbes. We shared a cab yesterday. We're Cheryl. Right. And seconded by Member Borges. Any further discussion? No. All in favor? Say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Roby, and thank you also the staff there from the Atwater Elementary District. Thank you so much for joining us. And congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Happy people. Okay, we're going to move on to part 2, and we'll invite those from Fortune School of Education to come join us here at the table. So this is the Fortune School of Education Preliminary Administrative Services Credential, and this will be led once again by Ms. Roby. Joining Ms. Roby at the table are institutional representatives. We have one. Would you be Christy or Carmi? This is Christy Pruitt, who's the Director of Teacher Education. Thank you for joining us. Ms. Rowe, will you please begin?
Okay, me again. So we bring before you for consideration and again possible approval Fortune School of Education's Administrative Services Preliminary Credential Program. Christy Pruitt is at the table, Director of Teacher Education. In the audience, I just wanted to mention some others that are here representing Fortune School. That is Bonnie Benson, Chief Financial Officer, and Carmi Preston, Coordinator of Teacher Education. And I believe there's one other that I don't. Thank you. And they'll be available to answer any questions that you might have. We've already covered the stages of initial institutional approval, and as noted previously, Fortune School of Education's program standards is a part of stage 4. Fortune School of Education submitted responses to the Administrative Services Preliminary Credential Standards, which again were reviewed by a team of 2 of Board of Institutional Reviewers who were qualified to review in this subject area. Following some revisions, the standards were found to be aligned. A copy of Fortune School's responses to the standards were included as an attachment to the item, as well as a copy of the findings in Appendix B. So just briefly, a little bit about Fortune School's Administrative Services Preliminary Program. Fortune School's one-year program will provide candidates opportunities to participate in leadership experiences through coursework and fieldwork. The candidates will develop educational leadership plans and will engage in action research at their partner schools and Fortune charter school sites. Fortune School of Education recruits administrative services credential candidates from partnering public schools, non-public schools, and charter schools. And during the field experiences, candidates will have a site-based advisor and a coach who will mentor and support the candidates and who will provide feedback throughout the year for those candidates. That's just a brief bit about their design. So given that, staff recommends that the Committee on Accreditation grant initial accreditation for Fortune School of Education's Administrative Services Preliminary Credential Program. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, this is an opportunity for any of the committee members to ask any questions or have a discussion. Co-Chair Moore.
I noticed in your document that your coursework is Cal APA aligned, and I was a bit curious how you were providing. I know it's so new, and everybody's just getting up to speed on how they're preparing their candidates. And so if you could just tell us a little bit about that process and how you'll set them up for passing that exam.
Absolutely. We have been excited about implementing the Cal APA, and we have been on board now for a couple of years. We did the pilot, and I've been joining the think tanks and the trainings, and so we have aligned our educational leadership project, which was already being implemented. We aligned that to the Cal APA as we were testing it and piloting the assessment, and even changed one of our seminar courses so that seminar is designed to assist them in making sure that they are on track for their cycles and allow for think tanks and deep dives with various stakeholders and mentors to come in and help them in designing their action-based project. We've also, in order to meet the communities of practice and the teacher growth, we've implemented some activities that help them to reach that. For example, for the communities of practice, we have our candidates taking a trip to New York to see some best practices that are happening in schools up there. So we're really excited about that alignment.
Any other committee member? Well, they came a long way. Let's ask them something. All right, seeing no other questions or comments, this is an action item. Is there a motion? So moved by Member Borges. Is there a second? Second by Member Riggs. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations, and thank you so much for joining us, Ms. Pro. Appreciate it. And thank you, Ms. Roby, as well. Now we have part three. Part three is the Burton School District Teacher Induction. Joining Ms. Roby, again, by video, and it's our institutional representatives. Do we have them available?
Yeah, are they on Zoom?
Hello.
Yay.
We hear you.
Can you see us? There we go.
There you are. Great, welcome. So we have
you.
Alexandra. Is Alexandra Aiello?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
Yeah.
and that's our Teacher Induction Program Coordinator. And then Treasurer Weisenberger, Director of
Yes.
HR. Okay, great. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Ms. Roby, you please begin.
Again.
Again.
Again. So we bring to you, before you, Burton School District's Induction Credential Program for your consideration. And the representatives are available for questions following this presentation. Again, Burton School District Induction Program has received provisional approval, and this presentation is a part of the program standards, which again is part of stage 4 of the initial institutional approval process. Burton School District submitted their responses, which were again read and reviewed by 2 Board of Institutional Reviewers, and following a few revisions, the standards were then found to be aligned. And a copy of Burton School District's responses to the induction standards were the insert that you have, as well as it included a copy of the report of findings. Burton School District's induction program will be, again, a job-embedded 2-year program offered to preliminary multiple and single subject candidates, or credential holders. Candidates will identify their current stage of development in relationship to the mastery of California standards for the teaching profession, and they will collaborate with their support providers, also known as mentors, on growth goals and the individualized learning plan, the ILP. There will be 4 cycles each year that will be completed, and it will make it possible for candidates to adapt their ILP to the growth that they experience during that year. Not only will candidates have the support of their support providers, but every school site will have a designated mentor who is classified as a teacher on special assignment, a TOSA. And candidates will also have the opportunity to access achievement teams with whom they may collaborate on such things as content, lesson plans, and teaching strategies. Given this brief description of the design, staff recommends that the Committee on Accreditation grant initial accreditation to Burton School District's induction program.
Thank you, Ms. Roby. COA, committee members, any discussion, comments, questions? Co-Chair Moore.
At least you know I do my homework.
That's right, absolutely.
Lynette, this could be a question for you. On the document that we have before us, the report of findings, report of findings. There's a concern about ECO candidates. Also on a couple of the standards, let's see. Standard 3, it says readers still can, even though it's aligned, readers still cannot access the links to the achievement teams. On Standard 6, it says readers continue to be concerned with meetings that are mandatory for all candidates, but yet it's aligned. So it's just those 3 items. If you could help us out, that would be great.
Yeah. The ECO was answered, and so whenever you don't see another following comment in a different color, it means that the readers then found it aligned, that the institution had actually revised it accordingly. So that's why you see the aligned on the ECO piece. The other comment that you see, they felt that it actually was aligned after some discussion. So those were also found to be aligned. It's just that in that, we provide that because you'll notice that there is no other comment under that in a different color. And so the preliminary aligned is in a different color. They read it, they discussed it, and they found it. Then after a revision, there were 3 resubmissions. And after that 3rd resubmission, they felt that there was enough information that it really was aligned. Does that answer that? That's sort of a process question. That feedback sheet can be somewhat confusing at times.
Sort of color coded too.
Right.
More information needed is in green, and so is the comment in green. And
Each
so
time it goes back to the institution,
Or if it gets a different color.
and then comes back, and the reviewer's writing a different color.
Right. So you are we're able to access the links to the achievement teams. There are ECO is an option, and you don't have to be a teacher of record in Burton for 3 years.
Right.
And mandatory meetings are not a requirement anymore.
They're not mandatory.
Clarify.
There was when that feedback sheet goes back to the institution, they respond to the latest comments, and that goes back to the BIR teams, the team of 2, and they found those to be answered at that point.
Member Forbes. I'm sorry, Member Riggs. Okay.
So I had the same concerns. I did find the ECO in the document that was submitted, that they did have it. It's interesting though, and maybe this is for conversation later, just with, at the end, as to how the reports come to us. Because I find it interesting and good that they're getting feedback and to see the types of feedback. But are they public documents? The feedback reports, are those public documents that anybody can access online?
technically they're public documents, but we don't put them on the web, other than when they come before you.
Okay.
That would be
all right.
Just a lot of work.
It just raises some questions because there's a difference in the reports a little bit as to how much feedback was included for us to see and whether or not that should be the process or not. And the way it does look, it looks like it's still an open issue. So if somebody were going to look at that, I would want it to be really clear to anyone who didn't know that those things had been resolved.
You might think about just the format of the form so it's a little clearer.
Currently, the way it works is, and I'll just make this clear, each institution, you'll see that there might be 2 or 3 different colors on one and 2 colors on another. So once it's reviewed by the BIR members, the feedback comes in one color. It goes to the institution, and we ask that they match that color when they revise their document so that it's very easily identifiable as to how they've revised it. So you'll notice on this one, as I said, I believe there was 3 resubmissions, so you see several colors. So that's just the process.
Thank you. Any other committee member? All right, this is an action item, so do I have a motion? Sure, absolutely. Yeah, Member Riggs.
I think that some of the confusion comes from there, because I got the blue, I got the green, but then there is another statement in black that said after the green, before the standards begin, and it says readers continue to be concerned about blah blah blah. So that left a question in our minds, I think, and that seemed different than the other reports. So, yeah.
Okay, again, this is an action item, so do I have a motion? All right, motion by Member Riggs. Is there a second? Second by Member Balatayo. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations and thank you for joining us, Ms. Aiello and Ms. Weisenberger. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Again, congratulations. And thank you, Ms. Roby. Ms. Roby, you're not done yet. We're going to swap items 8 and 9.
I said I was going to do a wardrobe change.
Yeah, right. Because we do have a time certain at 9:45, so we're going to come back. Ms. Bernardo, if that's okay, we'll come back to item 8. So let's move on to item 9 for now. So item 9 is the discussion of the quarterly report from the Newark Unified School District. Consultant Lynette Roby will introduce this item, and joining her at the table are institutional representatives Leonora Ribelsurba, the Director of Teacher Induction, Virginia Williamson, the Advisory Council member, and Will Eden, Principal of Key Academy and Advisory Council member. Thank you for joining us. Anyone need to recuse themselves? Seeing no recusals, Ms. Roby, please begin.
Thank you. And thanks to the representatives. They are here to answer any questions after we finish the presentation. So I am pleased to present to you Newark Unified School District's first quarterly report in response to stipulations set forth in May of 2018 following their accreditation site visit. Newark Unified was granted accreditation with probationary stipulations with 8 stipulations, as noted on pages 1 and 2 of the agenda item. Newark Unified has made progress in addressing the stipulations and the standards that were less than met. Staff has been in communication, constantly communication with Newark Unified via email and monthly phone calls. Additionally, staff has been attending their advisory council meetings. So we've been communicating a lot. Beginning on page 2, you will find a table that details Newark Unified School District's progress to date. Newark Unified has focused on several things, and I want to just make a note of some of these without going through the table one by one. They focused on implementing the new teacher induction standards, and in doing so, they've worked at the individualization of their induction program. And they have eliminated the use of FACT and implemented the use of the Individualized Learning Plan, the ILP. To help ensure that there's more consistency in the program, which was another area of concern, all candidates are now under the direction of the program director, Leonore, as well as the mentors and the ongoing support, so that addressed some of the consistency. Mentors will be trained in their supervisory roles during a Mentor Foundations workshop and will continue to receive support and training at monthly mentor workshops. Newark has also prepared a plan for systematizing the collection and analysis of data for the purpose of the continuous improvement of the program. Data, surveys, assessments, self-assessments, and reflections will be collected and analyzed twice a year in collaboration with their advisory council and their mentors. And this data will be used to determine the effectiveness and impact of the program and to inform about improvements that will be needed in the program. So this is the first quarterly report. They have a second one that is due in December 17th, and that updated agenda will be provided to you in the January 31st, February 1st meeting. If you'd like to take a moment to look over the table, if you haven't already, staff and the representatives from Newark are available to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Ms. Roby. Member Biggs.
I congratulate you on doing so much work to address the issues that were identified. And my question really relates to the program director's load. Because it does appear like there's a lot on the shoulders of the program director. When you look at, because I went back to the original report and saw there were 60 candidates in the program. And it just seems like a lot for one person to handle, to be doing so many interviews and then 3 times a year meeting with, if I'm understanding and remembering correctly, 3 times a year meeting with each candidate and the candidate's support provider, and then also dealing with any appeals, all those things. So a lot of duties that would normally fall on a program director, like admissions and working with the principals and so forth. But then additionally, all the data analysis, and it just seems like a lot. Does it feel like a lot?
Thank you for acknowledging that. One of the things I've always enjoyed was working with a team, and I do have, and I've relied on my advisory council. We meet a little bit more often than we have in the past, primarily because we want our program to be successful this year. I have enjoyed meeting all of my teachers. It does seem like a lot, but it's definitely worth the time to sit down and talk with them and really get to know them a lot more, which is what our induction program is all about right now, is really getting to know the teachers and who they are.
So it doesn't seem like a lot for me. It's what I need to do to be able to really get to know my teachers better and be able to provide them the right support. We make the time. And it works. We have technology now, so if I can't meet with them in person, we hang out, and we make the time. And I do have, no. Right now, it's okay. I'm enjoying the meetings. That's actually the highlight of my life, of my work, is actually sitting down and talking to them and working through their ILP and figuring out how to balance their ILP with evaluation goals, and things like that.
Member Tchaikovsky.
Sorry, I'm still adjusting to the microphones. Do you, in addition to meeting with your, I also am a project manager for teacher induction, so I'm curious about the degree to which you're able to observe your candidates teaching.
Oh.
Or if that's something that time makes impossible.
Like I said, I prioritize, and I'm actually very happy to announce that I have 34 teachers this year. Okay, we did not pick because we couldn't. We only have year ones from Newark, and continued with the year twos from the charter and private schools as part of the stipulation. So I do have 34 teachers in 12 schools, in Newark, Oakland, San Leandro, and Hayward. I made the time, and I was able to actually step into 33 of the 34 classrooms. The last teacher I was not able to go into the classroom because he has administrative jobs. So when I dropped into his classroom, into his school, he was not a teacher that day. But I have made the time and given them feedback on their work and their teaching. And we've actually had opportunities for some of them to come and talk about what I discovered. One of the tools that, let me just share with you, because it's one of the things that we're quite proud of, is using a tool that we created, highlighting the CSTP elements that they wanted to really focus on when we did their self-assessment at the beginning of the year. So I created an individualized tool for each of them, using the CSTPs that's actually observable during a class observation, and use that as the feedback form. I tell them it's not evaluation, but I'm trying to gather evidence based on what you want to grow in and share that with you. And I was able to share that with the 32 out of the 34. We prioritize. This is what it's all about. And this year, we wanted to really see what individualization really meant, and to what extent we could support that as a program.
Member Alvarado.
So thank you for the changes that have been made. I know it's a lot of work. In the monthly mentor workshops, including the classroom observations and so on, have you taken the opportunity to ask the candidates in terms of if they feel that they're getting sufficient support?
I'm glad you asked. So the mentor workshops are really just for the mentors, right? But it's when we have opportunities. I ask them, what do you want? So I've also had to individualize that. So I have my new mentors who need the foundation and need to really go slowly with learning focused conversations, coaching styles, understanding. They go from collaboration, they can collaborate, consult, and coach, to my mentors who've been with us since the beginning of BITSA and BITSA induction throughout that. Through them, we talk about their experiences. The first mentor workshop, so I have a new mentor workshop and a mentor workshop. They're two separate sessions. My mentors were like, Leonor, you met with your teachers and you did the intake before. Some of them met with me before school year started because I knew who they were. I reached out to them, asked them if they would like to meet with me. So we did before the school year even began. And they're like, they don't know what to do now, right? They're confused because it was the beginning of the year. Now they're in their classroom. Now they have to deal with evaluation. So from that, I scheduled Ask Leonor sessions. They're drop-in periods. I opened up several afternoons in my calendar And I go, just sign in, come in. I have no agenda. Bring to me what you need. And if your mentors want to come, come. So this was my way of addressing the confusion that I found out from my mentors, the candidates were going through. And some of them came together, mentor and candidate. Some of them just came with the candidates and they were like, okay, I got what we did with the intake and we did the CSTP self-assessment, but now I have to also worry about my CSTPs that we are going to be evaluated on. So how do I work this out? So we work things through. They thought they had their professional growth goal figured out, but now they have to consider what's evaluation goals. So we had to work through things like that and how to make the evaluation system, which is very similar to induction, fit without adding more stress on them and making it really relevant, finding ways to help them understand that, focus on what you want to grow in. Focus on that area of your teaching you want to grow in. The CSTPs will fit into that. We will find evidence that you're growing in the CSTPs that ask of your evaluation goals. And we've been able to do that. Some teachers are actually saying, why don't we do this for all? I go, because not everybody needs it. You're here because you need it. And it's making sense because it's worth it to you. Some teachers don't need this, so they don't have to come.
Thank you.
And I also just found out I have an activity, a log that we send out to candidates, because one of the things was, how do you know your candidates are getting effective mentoring? So Virginia and I created a candidate log that we hope to send out 4 times this year. And it's basically just asking them specific things. Are you getting just-in-time support? Are you guided through your ILP? Was the mentor able to provide you with observation? Are they modeling? Things that are in the induction standards. And I sent it out yesterday. Out of the 34, I think I got 10 back. And it was like, yes, we're getting the support that we need. And it's also identifying areas where mentors are not providing support yet, but it's the beginning of the year. So it's something that I will bring to my mentors when I meet with them on the 14th and the 28th, just to highlight, they're saying you're giving them a lot of just-in-time support now, but they need more help with ILP development, or they need more help with modeling, or can you guide them through the observation? So that's been another big effective tool of communication.
Thank you. Member Balatayo.
I want to go back to the question about the mentors. It says here on page 7 in Program Standard 5 that your district will require mentors to do a self-assessment at least twice a year. My question is, how do you then follow up with that self-assessment, and how do you use that feedback to then inform the way you facilitate these meetings with your candidates and your mentors?
Thank you for asking. Again, when Virginia and I, after we met with you last May, sat down and really gave dedicated time after everybody's credentials were all, recommended and the school year was closed. We sat down for a good week and took care of everything. So one of the things that we discovered, and I actually consulted with other program leaders, is that there are 7 mentor skills identified in the standards. Just-in-time guidance through making resources available, modeling, guidance with the ILP. I forget, there's like 7 of them. So we decided we'd focus on that, right? So we wanted our mentors some of them have been with us forever, since the BITSA days, to understand that this is what the skills, what their mentoring would look like. So we developed a continuum, like a self-assessment based on that. So if you're modeling, what does modeling look like as a developing mentor, as a proficient mentor, as an advanced mentor? So we researched different mentoring self-assessments. We looked at our own that we developed many years ago with our support providers then, and helped them understand what that is, right? So then we gave that to them beginning of the year. So most of those were done by, and it's a Google Doc. So most of them were done by, October maybe, right? Part of that too is after they do the self-assessment, one of the goals was, here are the mentoring skills identified in the standards. Where are you? And we're like, what is modeling? Something that's new. You know, what does that look like? What does that mean as a mentor? Do I need to go in front of the classroom and teach? What if I'm a retired teacher? How does that work? So then I brought the data with me, shared it first with advisory council, got feedback on, you know, this is how I plan to share this with the mentors. First with the seasoned mentors first, right? What do you think? Gave me feedback, and then I brought it to them. All mentors also prioritized the area that they'd like to focus on first, like which of these needed the most attention and most support from me. We talked about it, we highlighted areas, and again, just-in-time support was something that we had to talk about as far as the retired mentors. Modeling. Well, if you're not teaching the same content, what does that mean? So we made sure in our continuum that there were aspects of, you know, you just coordinate the modeling for someone, or you can co-teach together, or you can show a strategy that will work in different content areas. So we talked about, so it was shared at the mentor workshop, was shared at the new mentor workshop. We talked about it, and we generated different ways that we could address it. So that as a group, as mentors, especially the retired ones, were like, I'm not in the classroom, how they can also grow in that area, and it showed them how they could grow. At the same time, it also gave us the language that was common to our program about what does just-in-time look like? What does modeling look like? What does making resources available to teachers look like? What does guiding through the ILP development, the modifying, the reviewing the ILP, what does that mean? So that was we brainstormed, we talked about it, we came up with practical ideas.
Okay, thank you.
And we'll do that again in the spring.
Thank you. Member Morrison.
Hi.
Hi.
I too was impressed the fact that when I was reading all the concerns, that it was the director who was going to be the person who was going to solve all those problems. So I was wondering how sustainable that would be as well in the future. You know, if someone who wasn't filled with your enthusiasm took over the job after you, maybe structurally we need to look at that a different way. But I have a question also about the mentoring. I looked at the log that the candidates are going to fill in. I know you haven't got any data to go on or much data to go on yet. But one of the things they can say is that if they have concerns with their mentor. So I was just wondering what would happen if when you get that data soon that are concerns, how will you deal with that?
You want to respond? Well, no, go ahead. We have the reassign. I'll talk the reassign. The mentor reassignment process is that I have a conversation with them, find out what the issues are, maybe collaborate on different ways to make it, to find out ways to resolve it, then have a conversation with the mentor to find out their perspective over the situation, and then based on that, consult possibly with advisory, because they're the only support I have right now on the next steps. You know, I still have Virginia. She may be retired, but she still is a go-to and a thought partner. And I do have in my group of mentors 2 other previous coordinators of our program. So they've been with us, and they were in leadership positions at some point, and they're still with us, and they're the ones we will have a conversation. So we'll go through the mentor reassignment process, just in case, to consult, to figure out.
Member Riggs.
Just a suggestion as you continue to go through this is to think about the resources needed. So I'm going back to your comment about sustainability, because sometimes when a program receives feedback and they need to address things very quickly, the quickest way appears to be for one person to fix everything. and take on all of those duties to make, because it's faster if I say I'm going to do that, rather than think about the whole program as an agency that has to work with multiple people. And so you've got somebody sitting next to you who's retired. I'm not really sure of your organizational structure, but the things that I'm reading and hearing cause me some concern for you in the future, especially if the numbers do go up, and even for this year, because right now you've done the intake of new people. It sounds like you're the person who's meeting with the candidates related to their transition plan. In some induction programs, it's the support provider who meets with them related to their transition plan, and doing that foundational work as part of building a relationship and getting to know your candidate. And so my questions come up, well, what are the support providers doing if you're doing all of that? And then in addition to that, you're doing the mentoring workshops, and you're also giving feedback to the mentors, and you're developing all of the data collection processes. So there's just a lot on your plate for you to think about related to the future. And it didn't all have to be fixed by today, I guess, is what I would say. You've got something in place right now that's really, good and shows your dedication to fixing things. But you want to think a little long range too.
Did you want to say something?
Yes, I'd just like to add that the advisory council has taken on kind of a different role because Leonore is a standalone. And Leonore communicates with all of us on advisory beautifully. And so we're always aware of where things are in process. And she does allow us to collaborate. And so we are, in a sense, partners with her in making decisions and so forth. And so it's a very collaborative process. And so we do try to support her in every way that we can. Yeah.
Member Balatayo.
I just want to follow up on what committee members Riggs and Morrison has emphasized, because this is I'm really impressed again with the very differentiated approach and case-by-case scenarios that you've done to adapt to these issues in a streamlined manner. But I think what I would like to see more is a structured protocol in place, or somewhere in writing, or somewhere in your system that actually will allow, what would happen if like a mentor did this. There's like a system already in place, rather than having one person address each scenario case by case. I think that would make the process easier for everyone to understand, and I think that would also eliminate some of this one-on-one meetings that occur so much. Because I think that's something too that, again, the sustainability of this whole endeavor, if this district were to go bigger, if things were to go on fuller scale, I see this whole differentiated, personalized approach become too problematic as time goes on.
Member Forbes.
I shared some of the same concerns about sustainability, and I was encouraged to hear about the participation of the advisory, because I was looking at some of the stipulations that talked about feedback from K-12, higher education partners, candidates, mentors, and completers, and you're surveying lots of people, but I think for the next report, it might be helpful to us to hear about what's happening at these advisory meetings. Could we see a list of who's on the advisory, how they're related to the program, maybe minutes from some of the meetings? And I know commission staff are also attending those meetings. There's been a couple of them so far, and you have several of them scheduled. And so maybe that could help to provide that formative feedback on the structure and the impact of the program, as well as on the operational, logistical kind of concerns that I know were immediate as you build the capacity of the people inside the system.
I appreciate all your suggestions. I definitely feel that, and I really appreciate the guidance. I guess this year it was about understanding what our program looks like and trying it out first. Definitely we'll have to be looking at sustainability, but as far as, so we have this year, so my mentors are understanding what their roles, their new roles are. Our candidates, our year twos were like, wait, hold on, what? I don't need to do this. And wait a minute, what do I need to do? You know, there was comfort in completing this. But then I also have another group of year twos where like, whew, just feels so much better because it feels so much more relaxed and I can be flexible. So you have to balance both of those. And you have also mentors who are like, hold on, what do I do with them then? Where's my pacing guide? Where's my guideline? So understanding and running through the program, possibly by myself, with the help, definitely with the help of advisory. I did not submit anything to you without advisory, like taking a whole day. I had a group of them looking and dotting my I's and crossing my T's and making sure, the stipulation matched the evidence, and the evidence was actually, the link was actually working. All of that had to go through advisory. I did not do anything without going through because I didn't want to mess up. But now after this year, we definitely will have feedback from everyone because the mentors were like, do we really need to log all of the interaction? I'm like, let's just do it this year because let's see how it goes. And then we'll rethink things, maybe things are going to be better. This is our first year doing this. So sustainability is definitely something we will look at. There'll probably be more opportunity to share the load when everybody actually understands and really sees this new program in action and implement it for at least a year and see our data. Look at all the data that we're going to collect. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Any further discussion? Okay, this is an action item, but as a reminder, all quarterly reports are listed as action should there be some action the committee would like to take based on the report. There's no requirement that we do take an action other than just to acknowledge the receipt of the report, but that is an option for the committee. So is there a motion to either accept the report or to make a recommendation? Yeah. A committee member, Forbes.
I move that we accept the report.
And so moved by Member Forbes, seconded by Member Erickson. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. All opposed? Aye, motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much for joining us, Ms. Ribasura, Ms. Williamson, Mr. Eaton, and then also Ms. Roby. Thank you so much.
How about last time you can call out?
Okay. All right, Ms. Roby, break time. You got a break. We're going to still move forward here. We're going to continue moving on the agenda onto item 10, if that's all right. So we'll do that, and then after that we'll take a break and then go back to item 8. So item 10 is a discussion of the quarterly report from Saugus Union School District. Yeah, I want to check that out.
Yes, so Amy did join us via Zoom. And we just need them
the
to
video.
bring up the Zoom. Yeah.
Looks like it's being fixed right now.
You see her? Oh. Great.
There we go. Great. All right, sitting in for William Hattrick today is consultant Erin Sullivan, who will introduce this item. And joining her by video is institutional representative Amy Gaudet, the induction coordinator. Thank you, Ms. Gaudet, for joining us today and being willing to answer any questions we may have. Thank you. Anyone need to recuse themselves? Seeing no recusals, Ms. Sullivan, please begin.
Thank you. Good morning. This agenda item provides a staff summary of both the first and second quarterly reports submitted by Saugus Union School District to address the stipulations from its April 2018 site visit. Following discussion and deliberation of the site visit report and the team's recommendations at the May 2018 COA meeting, you determined that the institution be granted accreditation with stipulations, and the 4 stipulations are listed on page 1 of this item. Due to the timing of the quarterly reports, the first was received on August 15th and the second received on August 24th, and the scheduled COA meetings, both quarterly reports are being presented for the first time in this agenda item. The table on pages 3, 4, and 5 of this item provides staff's summary of the institution's quarterly reports. Full versions of the first and second quarterly reports are on file with the Commission, should any COA member wish to read the full report. So the table on pages 3 through 5 show that in its first quarterly report, Saugus focused on stipulations 1, 3, and 4, with stipulation 3 being addressed. And then the second quarterly report addressed stipulation 2 and continued the institution's work toward addressing stipulations 1 and 4. You will likely have noticed some future activities planned around stipulations 2 and 4. The third quarterly report is due on February 15 and will be presented to the COA at its March meeting. As was stated, joining the meeting today via Zoom is Amy Gaudette, the induction coordinator, who will be available for questions should you have any.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan. Any discussion? Any committee member wish to ask a question, have discussion? Oh, Member Erickson.
Yes, thank you for the submission of this report. I was just wondering why you chose to use the Center for Educational Leadership rubrics rather than the going directly with the California standards for the teaching profession.
Sorry about that. I have a sick child home here with me right now, so I'm sorry for the extra movement and things. One of our districts is currently working with Center for Educational Leadership to strengthen the instruction happening in their district, starting from administration down. And so it was an opportunity for us to work with them directly and without a large cost incurring. We do have a crosswalk document that goes, that marries the rubric with the California standards. But one of the things that was really important in our mission statement that we, our vision statement that we created at the beginning of last year was that we wanted to be sure to eliminate the achievement gap. And that's the goal of the Center for Educational Leadership. The other piece is that we are working with 4 districts, and we really wanted to have a common language around instruction, around teaching and learning. And that's one of the things that the Center for Educational Leadership rubric and the document.
No.
Amy, you're just
lost
frozen. Vince, do you know what's going on? Thank you, Jake.
Wasn't there a movie, Frozen in Time? I think or just, well, then, let it, Anna, let it go. Just let it go. That was too easy. Too easy. Yeah, of course it is. Of course.
Amy, can you hear us now? You came back for a second. I wonder if we should have her reconnect.
Oh, we see you.
Oh,
Let's
Amy,
go back
can you
on.
see us?
Yay.
Yay.
Yeah.
Okay, we lost you a couple of minutes ago. So you were in the middle of explaining the University of Washington model. So sorry about that.
I can see you. I see that I keep.
All right. Can you hear us now?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can right now.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Let's try
I'm
it
in
in
my office. I don't usually have a bad connection in here.
Yeah, that's interesting. So if we go out again, we might want to have her join us by the Zoom phone, maybe. But let's see if it works.
Okay.
We keep losing you.
I know, I'm sorry. Okay, should I call in? Is there a way to call in?
Keep talking. Yeah, keep talking. It seems to be working at the moment.
Keep talking? Okay. So one of the things that we were, well, a couple of things in terms of using the Center for Educational Leadership rubric rather than just the continuum. We had been using the continuum over the past few years, and the language in it wasn't as direct as what we're seeing in the Center for Educational Leadership. So a couple of things around that. Center for Educational Leadership mission is to eliminate the achievement gap, and that aligned closely to our vision as a program. And it's a work that has been going on in one of our districts already for, I think this is year 4. And so we had an opportunity to get involved in that work with that school district and really look at having a common language across all 4 of our districts around teaching and learning. We also have, there is a crosswalk document that aligns the cell work with California standards for the teaching profession. So I can provide that in the future if you'd like to do that, if you'd like to have that in the file.
I'm seeing heads nod here. Yes, that'd be great.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I'll do that for sure.
All right, Member Tchaikovsky.
Excuse me?
Hi there. I also am a program manager for an induction program, so it's good to meet you from a distance. I too share the concern about which framework you're using to provide feedback to teachers on their work with students and communities and other people, particularly the fact that there's a rubric for growth and evaluation. So I wonder about the conflict there between the way the standards clearly identify growth as our primary objective for induction.
Correct.
Almost as opposed to evaluation. To me, that line
Absolutely.
has been blurred significantly by the choice of this tool.
I understand that concern. When we have yet to present the tool to our participating teachers. Thus far, we have begun to use it. We have just introduced it to our mentors, and that has been a concern with the work, even at Newhall School District, and that's something that we front load with, that we keep going back every single time we talk to them about working with the teachers, that it is not evaluative. Unfortunately, that tool, that's the way that it's written. That's the only thing on it that indicates we're evaluating with it. And that's not what we're doing with it. And that's been very clear in even introducing the tool, and it's a thread throughout any of the work that we've done with it in Newhall School District and in the plans to use it moving forward.
I might suggest then that the category headings in the rubric that include words like basic and proficient, those definitely connote evaluation. And that's one of the key differences, I think, between this tool and the continuum of teaching practices. The other one doesn't have a line in the sand about, what's good enough or where the proficiency is determined. So maybe there's a way, I'm not suggesting copyright infringement, but own it, find something that works, but be cautious of those headings as well. I do think that's another place evaluation is very clear.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other member? Member Alvarado.
So on the table found on page 4, under efforts to recruit and diversify the educator pool in California, I see that you're currently collecting some data, and it's a plan to develop a plan, or is it action steps?
The data that I'll be presenting to our steering committee is from the completer data. And my plan is to show them our data along with California State's data, also along with the demographics of our own schools so that we can draw conclusions. One of the things that came up when we had the review was that there wasn't any recruitment happening for our teachers. And so we need to get to a place where we're looking at even why that needs to happen. So my plan is to use this data to help our group understand the importance of why we need to recruit a diverse group of teachers, candidates.
So if I understand correctly, then this step here is just to reach a level of understanding, not even come up with action plan for actual recruitment of diverse teachers.
I would love to have an action plan come of that. I need to get them there. I need to develop that level of understanding with my assistant soups, and then I need them to help me understand what their plan is. I mean, I am not in a position to create a plan for them. They need to be able to do that with their districts. I work with 4 districts.
Thank you. Member Forbes.
Thank you for all the information in the report. And maybe I've missed something because I don't think I've necessarily seen some of the other documents that might have been available, but I'm looking at page 4 and 5 about the formative feedback for the mentors, and sort of building on the notion of using this this tool that you're using. It says that the MTs are going to be observed once per school year. And then it looks like it's going to start in January, where you meet with, where you start actually putting that into operation. So how soon will the mentors receive any feedback in order for it to be formative?
It would be in January, February, when they're doing their bulk of observing and providing feedback to their participating teachers.
Okay, so that's what I assumed, but it really wasn't necessarily explicit in the document. So if they have that feedback in the sort of the middle part of the year, then are they using this tool, this rubric that you included in the document? Is that what's informing the observations?
Correct.
And so again, then the caution about the language of the observations would be, important for that. And then in addition to the observations of by the lead mentors, it says that administrators as well as participating teachers are going to respond to quarterly surveys. And so I was again wondering about the role of the administrators in responding to those surveys, and are they using this same tool? How will they have, what will they have observed? And will the participating teachers also be using the same type of will the questions for them include some of those same, that same rubric language? I was just curious about how you plan to get that, what you plan to collect from each of those groups.
Okay, so in terms of the administrators, it would be more, I don't know, maybe subjective is the right word, so that I could get feedback from them in terms of what their experience is at large. The administrators are not necessarily using those tools except for in the one district at this point, so they won't have had the same exposure as 3 of the districts wouldn't have the same exposure. So my plan would be to get feedback from the administrators in terms of kind of on a wider spectrum of how they perceive the mentors to be meeting the needs of their participating teachers. In terms of the participating teachers and the mentors, you mentioned feedback from them.
Yeah, I was just interested in what type of feedback how were you going to solicit this feedback, and what kind of feedback do you anticipate receiving?
Yep. So a couple of things. One of the things that I do to get feedback on a regular basis is every time we have any kind of meeting. So we do monthly meetings for each of the groups. I get feedback regarding those meetings along with any other needs that they might have at that time. So I collect that regularly. We meet at least once a month. But in terms of, again, the specifics, it's not going to be wrapped around that rubric, especially this year. One of the things that I have been clear about with the mentors is that we are looking at this as a tool that we can use. And at this point, I'm not telling them this is what you must use, because they have not had that training in January. And so it's not a must right now. It's more wrapped around their experiences in the program, and are they getting their needs met?
Okay, thank you.
Member Riggs.
I was very excited to see that you're actually conducting observations of mentors doing coaching. So that's really wonderful to hear. But now I'm a little confused about the feedback they'll receive, because maybe I just misunderstood, because I'm assuming they're going to receive feedback about their coaching abilities, and you would not be using the rubrics that are attached here for that, correct?
Not for the coaching.
So
No.
Is that something you're developing that could be added into the plan as to how, is there some kind of template for giving feedback to the coaches about their coaching ability?
I don't have one. That I can develop one, yes.
Okay, thank you. That clarifies it.
Member Forbes.
Thank you. I think I'd really appreciate seeing that as well, because it would also help me better understand how this tool really addresses the first stipulation about a research-based vision, because it seems to me that part of the research-based vision is how mentoring happens and how we evaluate mentoring, as well as what kind of instruction you anticipate teachers would be delivering in the classroom.
Okay.
So seeing the way that you evaluate the mentor, provide feedback for the mentors, would help bring forward the theories and research that you're using to inform that support.
Okay.
Co-Chair Moore.
Thank you for your explanations. I had difficulty connecting the CEL work, which I'm very familiar with. I think it's wonderful, the 5 Ds. And I know it's distracting for you right now.
I know, I'm really sorry.
Oh, it's okay. That's what we're about, is the kiddos, right? I had trouble connecting the stipulation, number 1, with the response that you put in the document.
Okay.
I kept looking for a vision and how you were connecting the CEL work with the vision, which I didn't find articulated in a way that I could understand or was obvious to me. So maybe in your next report, if you could really connect your response to the stipulation itself and include, because it says the handbook was provided. There was no handbook for us. So when I was looking for some evidence that the stipulation had been addressed, it was a little bit difficult.
Okay. The handbook, actually, it's the vision's on the first page of the handbook, and so I'm disappointed that didn't show up for you.
It was not openable when we put it into, because it was a PDF, and then when we tried to merge it into this, it was a technology thing. We simply couldn't do it.
All right. Any further discussion? All right. Thank you all for a healthy discussion. Similar to the previous agenda item, this is an action item. And as a reminder, all quarterly reports are listed as action should there be some action that the committee would like to take based on the report. So for today, again, there's not a requirement that there be an action other than to acknowledge and receive the report. So do I have a motion or a recommendation? Member Riggs.
It just strikes me that we need to be able to recall what we've suggested or asked for, and I'm afraid that will be missing if it's not in a motion. So I'm not sure I can make the motion, so help me with this, but I'm thinking that we accept the report and recommend that in the next report there be a more clarified vision, research-based vision in response to Standard 1, and that also there be some kind of record of how mentors will receive formative feedback, whether through narrative or a template that will be used to provide formative feedback to the mentors. And the
crosswalk with the CSTPs. Got it.
Cheryl, did you get that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And committee member Bellatario, I think, had a comment.
Oh, okay.
I'd also like to hear a follow-up on the hiring of more diverse personnel in this district in terms of, again, addressing the issues stipulated.
Cheryl, do you need to read that back at all?
What I have here is to accept the report with a more clarified vision for the connection with the research, how mentors receive formative feedback, crosswalk with the CSTPs, and follow up on the hiring of more diverse personnel.
Can I ask a question? Oh.
Connection between the vision, hold on one second, vision and what? CEL work. Okay, got it. Yes, go ahead.
I'll have a question when we're done. I'll come back to it after the motion's complete.
Okay, so member Riggs, does that encapsulate? Okay, so then do we have a second on that motion? I saw Committee Member Alvarado's hand first, so a second by Committee Member Alvarado. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay, motion carries. Yes, Ms. Gaudette.
For clarification on addressing the stipulation 2 with the hiring of more diverse candidate pool, how are other programs handling that particular stipulation? I'm struggling with a little bit of pushback.
I think we could, I think we could certainly have staff contact Amy after the meeting and talk through different ways that we've seen things. We'd be happy to do that with you.
That would be helpful. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ms. Gaudette, for joining us, especially under the challenging technological circumstances. Hope your child gets better. Thank you so much for joining us. Okay, we need to jump around a bit because we have some other time certain. So we have an 11 o'clock time certain. That's item number 13, which is the report of the accreditation team to Shasta County Office of Education. So Mr. Bob Lux was the consultant on the visit. In light of his absence, Administrator Dr. Catherine Carney will introduce the item. Joining her via video technology, we do have them, is team lead Adora Fisher and institutional representative Kim McKenzie, Director of Administrative Support Services. Does anyone need to recuse themselves? Okay. Seeing none, Dr. Carney, please continue, or please begin.
Good morning. Yes, I'm filling in for Bob Locks, who is filling in for a consultant on a site visit due to a family emergency. So it's with great pleasure that I fill his shoes. The site visit for Shasta County Office of Education was held on October 1st through the 3rd. This is a significant time frame because, as many of you may be aware, there were significant fires in that area. We offered Shasta County the ability to postpone their visit until the spring. They felt that they were able to host the visit, and they were correct. The visit went smoothly. Shasta County serves 8 other counties in Northern California, and they have devised a program that enables even candidates in the most remote areas of Northern California to participate. Prior to the inception of their program, there was a lot of recruiting that went on from administrators that lived outside of that area, potential administrators, and who would come and work, but they would, Shasta County found that they were staying for only a year or two and then moving on. So that was the reasoning behind starting their program, and by all accounts from interviews, and I will pass this on to the team lead in just a second, they have been successful. The visit went smoothly. Interviews were connected in person, but also via Zoom as a result of the participation of candidates from more remote areas. With that, I will pass this on to the team lead, Adora Fisher, and let her give you the results. I do not think she is on Zoom, but it's not her picture. I do not think that we're seeing. So, Adora, are you there?
I'm here.
Oh, it is you. I'm sorry. It's my new contacts. Okay, there you go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. The team found that all of the common standards were met, and the team found that all of the program standards were met, and the team recommends accreditation for Shasta County administrative program.
All right, thank you, Ms. Fisher. We'd now like to call on the institution to say a few words about the visit. Well, actually, we should do the discussion first. Okay, well, let's do the institution. That's fine. This is not the time to dispute the team findings, but rather provide any thoughts that you may have about the visit.
Kim, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Okay, we can.
Okay, good.
So we're just saying this is an opportunity for you to make any comments or thoughts that you'd like to have regarding the visit.
Oh, okay. I would like to thank Bob and Adora for taking the time and being very patient with us. This was our first accreditation visit, and we learned a lot from it and want to continue to grow our program. Our program mainly serves the rural area up in the North State. As mentioned by Catherine, I believe, we serve 8 other counties, and so we are currently in our 3rd year of our own program, and it continues to grow every year. So that's the only comment that I would like to make.
All right, thank you. Any committee member wish to make a comment? All right, seeing none, this is an action item. Do I have a motion to accept the recommendation? A motion moved by Committee Member Alatayo. Is there a second? Second by Committee Member Riggs. All in favor? All opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you so much, Ms. McKenzie, Ms. Fisher, and also Dr. Carney. Appreciate it. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are up to item 14. Do we have all the... Everybody here, Cheryl? Can we do that? Okay, so item 14, we're going to move on to that one. That's the report.
Is that Dr. Cook?
Yes.
Dr. Craig Cook, are you there?
Yes. Morning. Can you hear me?
Oh, come on. Barely. We can barely hear you.
Barely. I think the volume needs to be up or a little closer to the mic.
Okay. It's up
there you go.
As far as it will go.
Okay.
Can you hear me now? How's that?
Yeah, that works. That works good. So this is the report of the required. Okay. Yeah, we got you now. This is required 6-month follow-up from the Simpson University site visit. Ms. Hickey will introduce the item, and joining her via technology that we've already heard now is institutional representative Dr. Craig Cook, Dean of Education. Anyone need to recuse himself? Okay, seeing none. Ms. Hickey, please begin.
So I am also sitting in for Bob Locks. He had the site visit last year. So I'm reading to you his comments for today. They had their site visit February 12th through 14th in 2018. So almost a year ago, I guess about 8 months ago, and the COA granted the university full accreditation, but with a 7th year report due in 6 months after the February 2018 COA meeting. Many in leadership positions at Simpson had been in their position less than 2 years and had been making changes to the program to ensure it was fulfilling the required standards. While the team saw that they were moving in the right direction, they still felt they needed to call out a few deficiencies that had not yet been addressed. And as this report shows, since the visit, they have corrected all of these and have created a strong research-based vision. There were 4 areas found to be less than fully met, 2 common standards and 2 program standards, and that was met with concerns, not met, but met with concerns. So we have Dr. Cook, Craig Cook, the dean, and he's available to answer any questions related to the report.
Thank you. We can do is committee discussion at this point. Member Erickson.
I'd just like to thank you for a thorough report and recommend that we accept the recommendations after discussion.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and call on then the institutional representative. Dr. Cook, do you have any comments you'd like to make?
Yeah, we've, as was noted, we've been in transition with personnel. We had 6 folks retire over the last 3 years. So we feel like we've made the necessary adjustments with TPAs and other things there with our shared research statement. And it was done collaboratively. So we're making progress and making sure all stakeholders are aware of all these new implementations.
Great, thank you. Any other committee member wish to make a comment? Okay, other agenda items of this nature, this is an action item. And as a reminder, all quarterly reports are listed as action items. Should there be some action the committee would like to take based on the report? For today, there's not a requirement that we take any action other than to simply acknowledge the receipt of the report. So do I have a motion? Back to committee member Erickson.
I move that we accept Mr. Lux's report and that that was action of the COA, and so they would be accredited.
Yeah. Yep. And do I have a second? Second by member Borges. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations.
All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate your work.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Cook.
Are they all here?
And thank you, Ms.
We
Hickey.
can do the 11:30 apparently.
We're checking on item number 15. Do we have everyone here from Fremont Union High School?
Everybody here, Jake?
They are here. Let's have join us at the table, please. Yeah, agreed. So item 15 is a report of the accreditation team to Fremont Union High School District. Consultant Jake Schuler will introduce the item, and joining him at the table is team lead Melissa Meets Hall. Did I say that correctly? Oh my gosh, that's a. You sure you want to mention that after this year? No, I'm just. It's a joke. It's a. Hey now, an institutional representative. I'm on fire. Yeah, little sleep will do that. So joining was also institutional Josh Meisel, is that correct? Maisel, thank you. Coordinator of Academic Interventions, and Tom, I got this one, Avakumotis, thank you. All right, Assistant Superintendent, Teaching and Learning. Sorry, I butchered it. Does anyone need to recuse himself? All right, seeing none, Mr. Schuler, please begin.
Okay, good morning. Fremont Union High School District site visit took place from October 8th through 10th at their district office in Sunnyvale, California. A total of 73 interviews were conducted with various stakeholders throughout the visit, and the site visit proceeded in accordance with all normal accreditation protocols. The leadership team at Fremont was great to work with throughout the year leading up to the site visit and was extremely thorough in their preparation for the visit. They also had a great website that was well organized and easy for the team to navigate. As you already stated, the Fremont team is here today to answer any questions, and we'd like to thank them for coming up to join us at this meeting. Sitting next to me, to my left on the other side of this column, is our amazing team lead, Dr. Melissa Metz Hall, who's Administrator of Accreditation at the Riverside and San Bernardino County Offices of Education. Melissa was an absolute joy to work with and a fantastic leader throughout the process. I'd like to also thank our site visit review team, Gail Calhoun and Lindsay Gilbert, for contributing their time and expertise to the visit. The team worked diligently in preparation for the visit and worked extremely hard during the visit as well. I will now stop here and turn it over to Dr. Metz Hall, who will present the findings and the accreditation recommendation. After she has presented the findings and the recommendation, I will talk more in detail about staff discussions with the district to address 2 preconditions which required follow-up after the site visit.
Hi there, I am Melissa Metz Hall, and thank you for the comment about the baseball team, but it is a way to remember that. I am honored to be here with you and to represent the work that we did with and on behalf of you all and all of our teachers in induction across the state. I'm going to talk about the findings and the resultant recommendations for Fremont Union High School District. And while Jake's introduction to the item covered many of the factual components, I would like to, on behalf of the site visit team, like to thank the school district as well. As the induction program coordinator for the program, Josh ensured that the review team was supported with the resources and materials necessary to conduct our review. And as Jake mentioned, this did include a very thorough and sophisticated use, easy use of a website that was created, and everything that we needed was available. I also like to thank my site visit team, and I know that we kind of cut back on the thank yous, but I really want this to serve as a reminder, actually, of the work that goes into a site visit. As you all know, everyone around the table knows, it starts long before the site visit, and I want to thank them for their diligence, both before and during the visit. And so that is that's Gail and Lindsay, and I want to tell them that they were fantastic. Jake, I especially appreciated your thoroughness and your support as we progressed through the stages of the review. And again, just, it's a team effort, and this is a collaborative community. So I want to give a few pieces first, some contextual and some background information. The first two that I'm going to give are regarding the institution itself, and then the third is about the interviews that we chose to conduct. So first, regarding the district itself. The district is comprised, as you see in our report, of the 5 comprehensive high schools, and that's those high schools serve approximately 11,000 students. During that 17-18 year, last year, Fremont had 22 completers. And then during the review year, which is this year, the 18-19 year, the district serves 19-year 1 candidates and 20-year 2 candidates. And the induction candidates and all new hires, so I'll say that again, the induction candidates and all new hires are supported by full-time release mentors. So the second contextual piece in relation to the accreditation activities, this is the first accreditation site visit for Fremont Unified. They were approved, I'm going to say, August of 2015. Okay, so this is their first time, first 3 years into our 7-year accreditation cycle. And I think that's important contextual information. Third, the last note that I want to bring forth is the decision about completers. Okay, so with our strengthened and streamlined accreditation system, one of the things that we do as a review team or as a site visit team is that we look at the completer data. And we're looking at the completer data to see where that mirrors the state completer data. And my understanding and the direction that we've been given in the last year or so is that we can make a decision about whether we should interview or need or feel the need to have completers be part of that process. So in this case, Fremont Union High School District, their data was very similar to the state, and across groups, their standard deviation was very similar and very small. So we could have made the decision not to talk to completers, but we did. And that was a very positive experience. I think those completers really help us all understand the candidate experience. So I just wanted to address why we certainly did have completers, but not because of any worry or concern. We just wanted to be diligent in understanding that. So next, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to talk about some highlights from the visit. The first is about the individualized learning plan, or the ILP. And the team noted an intentional shift toward a more customized and individualized path for induction candidates. Whereas, if I could paint a picture for you, whereas there may have been a top-to-bottom offering that the induction candidates in the past were all going to follow, it's now more of a menu of offerings. And the menu of offerings supports what it is that they're working on in their individual learning plan. So that was quite a strength. And just so that you know that the records showed that the ILP was used to guide both their inquiry and to provide the resources. So again, guiding that individualized. The next strength or highlight that I want to bring forth are the observations. Both our interviews and our documents provided evidence that observations were taking place frequently. Candidates are observed by their mentors and are being provided the resources, such as release time, in order to observe other teachers. The candidates placed a high value on these observations, as well as the feedback which they received from their mentors. Again, this is a full-time release mentor model. Okay, so that model might support why these observations were happening with the frequency that they were. And then lastly, on a strength is the interconnectedness of the induction work to the teacher's experience. So the candidates expressed that their induction was meaningful and it supported them in their personal growth and the students in their classroom. Candidate interview groups connected the induction experience with a focus on their students. Okay, so, and excuse me, I have a cold. So now I'm going to move into recommendations. After close examination of the program documentation and the interviews conducted, the team made the unanimous recommendation of accreditation with stipulations. This recommendation is based on the findings that Fremont Union High School District was out of compliance with preconditions 3 and 4. Common standards 1 and 4 were met with concerns, and program standard 4 was also met with concerns. As Jake indicated, I'll present the discussion on the program and the common standards, and then Jake will follow me with discussion regarding the preconditions. So for Common Standard 1, which is a meaty standard, there's a lot of constructs in there. There are 2 constructs within Common Standard 1 that the team found either inconsistent or not in evidence. Through document review and interviews, the team could confirm that instructional personnel collaborated on decision-making for the educator prep program. These instances of collaboration included the mentor team and the program coordinator. However, stakeholders such as those serving on the plate, that's an advisory team, did not consistently articulate experiences with decision-making for the program. The second construct of Common Standard 1, which was not in evidence, neither in document review nor during the site visit, was that the team could not find evidence that the unit systematically collaborates with colleagues in P12 settings or university units. While the program coordinator collaborates with IHEs, neither program mentors nor advisory members indicated external collaboration to improve educator preparation. And then Common Standard 4. Of the 4 constructs, which are part of Common Standard 4, the team could not find evidence of feedback from stakeholders as part of the continuous improvement process. To its credit, Fremont Union High School District supports all new hires with mentors. This includes induction and non-induction hires. So as you read in the report, interviewees could not distinguish between induction support and support for all new hires. The ability to support all new hires would seem to be a strength. However, the inability to distinguish between induction candidates and all new hires set for the continuous, it limits that data set and the understanding of the experience for the induction versus all hires. And then on Program Standard 4, the finding met with concerns pertains to 2 parts. There's also a lot in this standard, as we all know, and it pertains to the mentor content area knowledge, mentor qualifications, and connecting candidates with available resources, and that's the guidance and clear expectation part of that program standard. In the first instance, again, I remind you of the contextual information. They rely on a full release mentor model. In relation to Program Standard 4, interviews revealed challenges that candidates experienced when there was not a direct content match between themselves and their coach or their mentor. For example, there's a letter of commitment, and the ILP, which provide a record of how the candidate's going to be connected to someone that has that knowledge. The team found inconsistencies in the expectations and the implementation, and that resulted in a variability of the candidate experiences. There was evidence of inconsistencies in how this expectation was operationalized, and no evidence of how the connection of resources was systematically monitored when the mentor and candidate credentials did not match. Okay. I've attempted, and I hope that I have made clear the connections to the very specific language that that are represented in our suggested stipulations. It certainly has been my honor to serve, and I know that I'm going to hand this over to Jake, and then whatever questions you might have. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hall. Mr. Schuler?
Okay, so Melissa just went through the common standards and program standards findings. So talking about the preconditions. So as Melissa stated, during the visit, it became apparent to the review team based on interviews with candidates and with mentors that there was not a formal system in place for monitoring the requirements of preconditions 3 and 4. So to review a little bit about those two preconditions, precondition 3 is the requirement that the program assure each participating teacher receives an average of not less than 1 hour per week of individualized support or mentoring, which is either coordinated or provided by the mentor. Precondition 4 requires that goals for each participating teacher be developed within the context of the ILP within the first 60 days of the teacher's enrollment in the program. In discussions with program leadership, it was confirmed that at the time there was not a formal process in place to monitor these two requirements. So based on these findings by the team, the Fremont Union was found by the team to be out of compliance with preconditions 3 and 4. As the COA handbook states, any institution found to be out of compliance with a precondition must remedy the issue within 10 days. Because of that requirement, the site visit team and I were in touch with the administrator of accreditation during the site visit, or right at the conclusion of it, to develop a process for that immediate next step. So it was determined that the best course of action was to have Fremont address the preconditions as soon as possible and no later than today, November 7th, in time to discuss them at this meeting. So according to that direction, leadership at the district followed up with CTC staff by the Friday following the Wednesday that we left the site visit. So we were in touch just a few days later. And by October 17th, so less than 10 days after, they were in communication about actual specific solutions to address both preconditions. To address precondition 3, which is the average of 1 hour per week of support, the district has created a mentor log spreadsheet that documents each meeting with a basic description of activities and length of time for each meeting. The district has also described a process for the monitoring that ensures that program leadership can verify each candidate is receiving the 1 hour of support per week. For precondition 4, which is the requirement to develop goals for the IOP within 60 days, the program has developed a spreadsheet that tracks the date when mentors and induction candidates are meeting to develop these goals, and also established the date of enrollment of in the program so that it's apparent that it's within 60 days. On top of that, the district has described the process for monitoring this to make sure that candidates and mentors are meeting this deadline. So at this time, commission staff has seen appropriate evidence to verify that Fremont Union High School District has a system in place and are in compliance with preconditions 3 and 4. The COA might consider including a requirement that any follow-up could include a discussion of how these new processes are being carried out throughout the year. So that concludes the report, and we're happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Great, thank you. We'd now like to call on institutions, say a few words about the visit. Not the time to dispute the team findings, just provide any insights or thoughts you might have about the visit itself.
Well, I'd like to start off by thanking our visiting team. This, as Melissa mentioned, this was our first time through the accreditation, and it was very impressive in the thoroughness and the detail that the team went about their job. This was not a cursory review. It was very in-depth, and they took a lot of time and really thoughtful questions to really understand as much about our program as one can in just a short amount of time. And so that was very much recognized, and it was eye-opening. And it was really heartening to hear that the areas they focused on are definitely important areas to us. And since that time, Josh and I, as well as our mentor team, have engaged in many, many discussions about how can we address not just the preconditions, which we did, but from an ongoing standpoint, how do we better engage our stakeholders? What other resources can we use to really take our program from a high level to even a greater heights? And so I want to reiterate my gratitude for you to highlighting areas that we can continue to grow in.
Thank you for this.
Add really quickly, thank you to Jake, who has been super helpful. I wasn't aware of his role before we started this, and it was about a year ago when I met him, and we've had countless phone calls and emails, and I don't know how we would have done this process without Jake, so I really just appreciate his work too.
Thank you. The staff works hard, that's for sure. All right, this is an opportunity now for the committee to make any comments or a discussion. Member Riggs.
I think this question is really for Melissa. A process question that would be helpful for this group to consider, and that is, why did you decide to interview completers? And also, did that have any impact on your discovery related to the preconditions, or would that have most likely come up without that?
The completers were provided evidence for the older format, if you will, right? We're only just talking about 3 years, but we've seen. So you see in writing, and then at the site visit, hopefully you're affirming, but you're understanding more fully. And so for those completers, they could talk about their experience with what their inquiries meant. They could talk about the frequency of the interaction with their coach. So yeah, those were the two main pieces that we were looking for there. Did that answer you? Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Any other comments or thoughts or questions? Coach Hermore.
I was just curious about the number of ECOs. You had 5, which is a little bit high for the amount of candidates that you have. And I understand high school might be a little bit different. You come in with people who have experience in the field. So if you could just share that. That'd be great.
It's actually also related to the values that we place on supporting all new hires, because all of those ECOs had actually worked in our district for at least 4 years. They came in as either student teachers or usually interns or maybe on an emergency credential or something. They're well known in our community. They taught for 4 or 5 years, and especially for education specialists, like I can't think of any who come in as a first-year induction. Like, we hire almost all of them as interns and keep them. And so all 5 of those were in that situation. I think 4 of them were ed specialists. And yeah, they were all interns with us beforehand.
Quick question, and this for Jake. Because of the preconditions, and we're asking for a report in a year, and you've given us a brief update of the process or the preconditions, where they are addressing them and how, but it's so recent. I'm curious about how we might get more information on that, a report from you maybe, or how the CTC or our PSD will follow through with that.
Yeah, so if there's going to be a report on any part of any of the stipulations or things that were met with concerns, we can include it as an item as to how things are being followed through on the systems that they've developed. I think it could be easily a part of that, but I don't know if Cheryl has a different idea for it. But yeah.
I think that could be part of anything else that you request. He's got spreadsheets set up. We can just review the spreadsheets, talk to him about the process of when and how often he's looking at those, and have any adjustments been needed to be made, those kinds of things. Certainly.
Any further comments or thoughts? Member Riggs.
So I appreciate you saying this was your first credential and experience with accreditation. And I found it amazing and laudable how you're supporting all new hires along with people going through induction. And then was very interested in your viewpoint as a district related to the disaggregation of that data. So at the very last paragraph on the last page has a summary about the concern of the team related to that. And so I guess I wonder, having gone through it and the feedback that you've gotten, did you get enough to answer questions that you have about the need for having separate data for the induction candidates?
So we've always had the separate data, but what we need to improve upon is to communicate that with a wider body of stakeholders. So, for example, our HR director who hires all the teachers, we didn't do an effective enough job of communicating to her whether their new hires is going to be in a formal induction process, or you're technically not eligible because you're an intern. We're still going to be supporting you anyway, but and Josh could speak a little bit more about the data, but the data itself, we've always been able to disaggregate internally in our teaching and learning department. We need to improve on making sure our internal stakeholders, our wider body of administrators and team members could probably have a better understanding of the distinction. Josh, you want to add to that?
Well, I think he hit it. And she mentioned PLATE, also the advisory team. So in May, we gave them data sets that actually, it wasn't just induction versus non-induction, but year one versus year two, and got their feedback in writing on it. The fact that in October that those PLATE members weren't sure what they had been looking at is what we need to improve on. And so,
Sure. May I add one critical thing? We've referenced PLATE. That's the Professional Learning Advisory Team of Educators. We used to have Professional Learning Advisory Group, but that was plague. And so we needed to make a different direction. So just if you hear the term PLATE, that's why we did it, because I'm sure our accreditation hinges on that acronym.
Member Tchaikovsky. Oh, sure. Member Riggs.
So given that, when I look in that last paragraph, it talks about difficulty checking onto the decision-making process. So as you think about your induction candidates versus other hires who are not in induction, are there decisions that you make for that subgroup that would be different than for the hires who are not part of induction? Because that seems like it would be something a little bit more than just the advisory group understanding, but also yourselves as to how you use your data. Are you able to use the data specific to the induction candidates to make programmatic changes when you deem necessary?
Sure. So yeah, if just as an example, one area that I'm really interested in exploring more is that of we very deeply believe in our full release model because of the amount of time and training and attention that the mentors can give to each teacher. The challenge with that is around content area support, subject area support. So our mentors are diverse in terms of their background, but because we have 5 sites and there's all sorts of different teaching credentials, we don't always prioritize. I mean, when possible, an English teacher mentor will support an English teacher, but when they're out of their subject area, we really need to formalize that process. So the feedback came through our induction feedback about that. That was particular to induction teachers. And so we formalized the process and made sure that the mentors, when they're having their initial meetings with their teachers, have a person, a phone number, a room number, and a plan for them to reach out. Either usually the mentor reaches out to coordinate the support for that teacher. So we're building that system. Now, we also have interns who we're supporting that are not in the subject area either. So we're doing the same thing for those interns who also need their support. But the data that came from that, now the veteran teachers that we have, we also support new hires that are veteran teachers. That is primarily school culture, evaluation. The subject area is not an issue for them. They are experienced in their subject area. So in this case, we learn something about the data set through our induction teachers. We apply it to the induction teachers as well as to the interns because we know they have that need as well.
Member Tchaikovsky.
Yeah, as I'm listening to you, I'm relating, because in my district we brought induction back exactly the same time you did, and we just submitted our program review stuff. So we're getting ready for our site visit, right? And as you're talking, I can relate to. I mean, partly the ECO number is the consequence of people waiting till the last minute to think, is someone going to offer me a chance to do induction? So you're capturing all these people at various places in their career, right? You'll probably have far fewer ECO down the road. And I just wanted to say that as I'm listening to you, your all embrace kind of thing is the same approach that our district is using. I think that's the intent of this. The intent is to, retain, grow, and encourage teachers in their early stages of their careers, regardless of where they are, to thrive, right, and serve kids as powerfully as possible. So we also serve interns in a variety of ways. But then also, I just wanted to say, so I can relate. That's kind of like my main contribution, and good job. And the second thing is that I think it's incumbent, as you're talking about this attempt to make clear the various missions of these, programs that you're using to support these different people, articulation both among those, but also between curriculum and instruction and professional development and what you're doing becomes a really big concern. And I'm glad that you're here at the table, representing your district. And I would just say that, there's a lot of potential, I think, for all of us to consider. And I've heard this from members of my advisory committee. Do you see how you can lead the district? Do you see how reliance on the California Standards for the Teaching Profession and the continuum of teaching practice gives us this tool to drive our system? Like, we're not just a one-off effort to, desperately try to save new teachers. So, I guess I also recognize the challenge and potential of trying to articulate these different efforts and make clear, who's on what base, but then also capitalize on what we've learned to influence the world around us, So, thank you.
Thank you. Member Erickson.
I appreciate the speed in which the preconditions were addressed. I'm wondering, though, because there's still a concern with the disaggregation of data, or there still continues to be concerns, and that it sounds like the preconditions were addressed, but we don't have the documentation in this report, that we want a follow-up report in 6 months, maybe. So I guess that's a motion that we request a follow-up report in 6 months that includes documentation that the preconditions have been met, and some evidence of disaggregation of data and how it was used to continuously improve the program.
Can you repeat that all? Okay. So is that a motion to accept the report with the okay. Yeah, with the stipulation. Okay. Cheryl, can you read that back just to be sure we all get that?
Team recommendation of accreditation with stipulations, with a follow-up, a 6-month follow-up after, to look at the implementation of the preconditions, as well as some information about the disaggregation of the data. Is that correct? Okay.
All right, well stated. Thank you. Is there a second? Second by Committee Member Balatayo. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Right. Thank you and congratulations. Thank you again for your time, Ms. Hall, Mr. Mazel, and Mr. Abakamavis. Thank you. All right. And of course, Jake, Mr. Schuler, thank you so much. All right. Do we have time to squeeze in 8? I know we want to probably break for lunch before the noon hour, so that's the discussion of late documents, item 8. Sorry, Michelle. And then we'll still be able to break early before the lunch crowd at noon. So we're okay moving forward on 8? Okay. So item 8 is discussion of late documents. Michelle Bernardo will present the action item. Ms. Bernardo, will you please begin?
Hello. So this item provides information on institutions who have not complied with the timelines established in the accreditation cycle. As you can see from item 8, in the first table, there are 3 institutions who have not submitted payment for their annual accreditation fees. The first being California School of the Deaf for the Deaf in Fremont, Chula Vista Elementary School District, and Oakland Unified School District. These fees were considered late as of November 1st of this month. Institutions were notified of the late fee as well as their suspension for recommending candidates until fees are received. The next table reports program review submission that was due on October 15th of 2018 for the Orange cohort. There are 4 institutions who have not submitted the required documents. These institutions have been contacted by staff. Academy of Art University has not submitted any documents. San Jose State University has submitted. Their submission was incomplete, and they have been contacted by staff and are working with staff. They should have all their documents submitted by November 9th, this Friday. University of Laverne also submitted, was late and is still being reviewed by staff at this point. The University of Pacific has not submitted any documents. And the final table shows submission of preconditions for San Jose State University that was due back in March 31st, 2018. But again, they're scheduled to submit all of their required documents by this Friday. And that's all for the late documents, if you have any questions.
Just as a technicality, so if coming in by November 9th, since you've had contact with them prior to November 1st, that's still regarded as meeting the deadline?
It's not meeting the deadline.
Okay. Dr. Carney?
So at the date that it was due, October 15th, all 4 of those institutions had not submitted. Okay. The 2 that are noted, University of Laverne and San Jose State, have since turned in documents late. We've had a great deal of contact with San Jose State. Things are still coming in, and they've promised to get them in by November 9th. It doesn't turn it into an on-time submission. They were given an extension.
Okay, thanks for clarification. Member Erickson.
I do not have an update on Academy of Art. I will tell you that I sent an email. Oh, is Hart here? Come on up. I'm sorry. I looked for you and didn't see you.
They have not. They have not been in contact with us.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, Academy of Art has not been contacted, but UOP has been contacted because they are scheduled for a review pretty soon here. But yeah, we will be reaching out to Academy of Art.
Okay.
UOP? Not yet.
Yeah. Okay. Member Riggs?
I'm just surprised by San Jose State. If the precondition response was due March, and given that we just heard that we gave 10 days for an institution that goes to review to respond to the preconditions, I wonder why they've had so many months to respond to preconditions.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, Member Alvarado.
So there was a change in leadership, and their new dean, I believe, just started this summer, and so things are gearing up, I believe, to get everything submitted. In that, I was even prompting the interim, but they were interim. Now they have a permanent dean.
Sure, I've been speaking with Heather Latimer, who's the dean now, and she is on top of it totally. So it's taken a while for her, I think, to understand who's doing what at the institution and what was turned in, what was not turned in. But she's got a very, very good grasp of it right now, and I'm totally confident that she's got it under control.
Well, I can certainly appreciate that, with the amount of effort it takes to get started as a new dean. On the other hand, I remember many discussions in our committee on reforming the accreditation system about red flags, and this seems to be a giant red banner. So I'm still wondering, in terms of equity across the system, as well as making sure our preconditions really have teeth, that it still seems like something else needs to happen. And I'm also concerned that there's another institution, at least one, on this list who had not paid the fees that was also having to submit reports. So it seems like this is the time where that system and it sounds like these institutions are receiving a lot of attention from the staff. So it's, certainly tapping the staff capacity, but is there something else that we should do as the COA to support that process of identifying these institutions with special needs?
Especially preconditions. I mean, you're not supposed to be offering a program without having met preconditions. And I'm just imagining if this happens without a dean, there's someone who's still in charge of the credentialing programs who could have at least submitted whatever they could without the dean. And because this is months. And so do we have a process in place that when preconditions have not been submitted on time, that there's some different process related to preconditions rather than the rest?
Certainly adopt, a process. We could bring you back something at the next meeting where there's a letter of warning that's done, which we've done with many of these, a letter of warning, and then followed by a certain period of time in which we do close off the recommendation, their ability to recommend. So we could propose a couple of options for you to consider if you'd like me to do that. Be happy to. It would help us. So,
I believe that for one of these institutions here, or maybe several, letters were sent to their presidents.
And the ability to recommend for the institutions who haven't paid their fees has already been instituted. They are on suspension of that. So,
Member Erickson.
Sorry. I would like to recommend that we suggest to staff to do just what Ms. Hickey said, was to come back at our next meeting with some recommendations as to when warning letters are sent out, when credentialing availability to the opportunity to credential candidates is removed from the institution until there is some response to the staff, so that it doesn't be so onerous to all of you.
You want to make that not only, I'm sorry, Dr. Carney? Go ahead.
I'd like to also just remind the committee that concurrently there is moving forward a regulations package that we had to suspend cost recovery fees for activities that come in outside the cycle because of the change in when we strengthened and streamlined, we changed the titles of things. So late program reviews doesn't exist so we're doing a lot of work on that. Had we leveraged the late fee structure or the fee for extraordinary activities outside of accreditation, for example, San Jose State would have had to pay approximately $13,000. Wow. So we think that will also be a leverage. That doesn't address, it will also address the preconditions issue, but certainly this committee doesn't meet every month or every 2 weeks. And so having a system where staff can take action will certainly be helpful. I will also say that when you took action, I think it was in 2014 maybe, for us to report late documents to you, that has also been helpful because we do formally inform them that this will take place in a public committee.
Great, thanks for the information. Committee Member Erickson, do you want to convert your recommendation to a motion?
I move that we direct staff to come back to our next COA meeting with some recommendations as to when letters of warning go out to presidents, when letters of warning go out to deans, when suspension of credential recommendations might occur because of late submission of either preconditions or program review, or the fees are already taken care of, it sounds like, or whatever else has been and that appears to be an issue.
Okay. And is there a second for the motion? Second by Member Forbes. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Okay, thank you. Just, it wasn't necessarily an action item, but thank you for the discussion. Glad we had some action to help the staff on that.